Good morning. How is everybody today? Yesterday was a really full day. It looks like I'm going to have a really full day today. Hooray. And tomorrow is a really, really full day. And Sunday's a really full day. I think Monday I might just sleep all day. Good morning. This is Friday Daily Devotional. My name is Red Moon Eagle, and you're watching Daily Devotions with Red Moon Eagle. And what we do here is we're real. We pull cards, and we be real in time. And we are in the tide of renewal, which is between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. We're about to turn the tide into June, which then brings us into the summer solstice month, and I am really excited about that. Summer solstice, for as much as I don't like the heat, it is one of my favorites. I say that I think about all of them, and I'm going to admit that. Okay, in the Egyptian gods, we have number 2, creation, Amun-Ra. He is the most powerful cosmic deity. He is the king of all the gods, the Egyptian pantheon. He was born from the fusion of the god Ra of Heliopolis with the main Theban city Amun. Amun-Ra, or Amun-Ra, is the creator of all things, symbol of intelligence and creativity. He is like fire, rapid and often unexpected. If this card appears to you, you have all the skills to obtain what you want, intellectual and practical skills for achieving your objectives. He indicates a flourishing period, skills in public relations, ideas and intentions, which take concrete form, perhaps even a sudden falling in love, a new beginning, or a love story that takes shape. Do you have to sit there? You silly goose. Astra has decided to walk across my lap to sit on my table, which is rickety, just rickety enough that her moving on it with all the stuff on it is not safe. Anyway, okay, so creation. Symbol of intelligence and creativity. He is like fire, rapid and often unexpected. If this card appears, you have all the skills to obtain what you want, intellectual and practical to achieve your objectives. Wonderful. Okay. And sacred self-care, the card is connect with your ancestors. The mantra is, as I heal my wounds, I heal my lineage and bring peace and that reverberates infinitely through time and space. I am finding a lot of people in the last 4 or 5 years that have come into my realm, basically for downloads, and so many people have DNA healing. Like they have this ancestral healing piece in their blueprint. And I didn't see that for a long time when I did downloads. So it's definitely something that's new, as in more people are finding me that have it, not necessarily that it's new in the world, but it's a very interesting thing I'm seeing. So if you've got DNA healing, you may want to get a genetic test and see where if you have methylation problems. There's this wonderful program called Genetic Genie you can go to. I'm not being paid by any of these people. It's just something I've discovered. So far, I've never had a sponsorship, so I don't know what that looks like. Animal Spirit Guidebook. And this is the horse. Momentum, freedom, expansive energy and force. The horse represents the most masterful form of earth energy within this deck. It provides us with momentum, so reliable, so supportive that you can ride on its back toward any goal, no matter how difficult the terrain. A horse personality is fully awakened, fully alive, and cannot be defeated. The horse's freedom becomes available to us when we hone and collect our energy through daily practice. Physical stamina, exercise, and mental focus, meditation, are the secret weapons behind the horse's legacy. When in balance, achieves anything, never gives up. When out of balance, runs away, feels weak. To bring into balance, strength training. Horse energy, the one thing that I would add to horse energy is, having worked with horses before, one of the things that if you've never actually worked with horses is they are extraordinarily empathetic creatures. And if you're upset, they're gonna feel it. And I say that as in Some horses are actual empaths, other horses are energy sensitive horses. Some of them are both, so they're just like people in that way. I love how this deck talks about the expansive energy and the force behind the horse, because horses are very powerful, they're extraordinarily smart, and they're the physical stamina, they're talking about physical and mental, but I would also say I would add emotional strength. And as always, all animal entities, all animal companions, all of our wonderful brothers and sisters in different life forms all have this earth sense ability. They all connect into Mother Earth. So we'll come back to horse, but I love horse. Horse is amazing. Okay, or Shaman Oracle. Number 44, the sacrifice. The essence of the sacrifice is to make sacred. The sacrifice is an offering of gratitude made from the heart, a feast of love prepared for the spirit. A long time ago, sacrifices sometimes involved rituals in which blood was offered to the gods. For example, in the Bible, Yahweh preferred Abel's sacrifice to one of his lambs to Cain's offering of vegetable and fruits. In the Middle America, however, Quetzalcoatl, the Lord of Dawn, came to teach spirit offered our songs and our prayers to the blood of humans or animals. The invitation of sacrifice asks you to offer to spirit that which is most precious to you. Your offering will be sanctified in return tenfold. You will be elevated to the altar at which you have been praying and meet the divine at the table with heavenly feasts. You are welcome to guest in the banquet. Your heart is the only worthy offering you can bring. Life has been generous with you in so many ways. The medicine of this card. Who is the one person or thing you think you can't live without? It's time to offer it all to the Spirit so that it may unfold as it will. Do not cling to the old form or allow your sacrifice to weigh heavily upon you. You have sacrificed yourself and your dreams for too long. Now is the time to rededicate yourself to your journey. When you make sacred, you open the doors to infinite wealth. Do not delay. And wealth and prosperity and all those words have been toxified, like super positive toxification, and I'm not about that on this channel. If you're looking for toxic positivity, click off, go somewhere else. What I'm talking about is the enrichment of your life. And enrichment in your life may not indeed be things. It may be relationships. It could be knowingness. It could be connection with people. It could be, gosh forbid, community. And a healthy community is a whole different thing than living in isolation and you being at the top and being the leader of a thing, having toxic wealth. I understand the temptation to hoard wealth. It's a trauma response. If you are a descendant of anyone who's gone through, let's pick some things, going backwards. Iran-Iraq War, Desert Storm, Vietnam, Korean War, race riots, World War II, Korean conflict, World War I, Great Depression, Dust Bowl, Civil War, all of these, this is just in the last 150 years-ish. In just that amount of time, our culture in the United States has gone through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And people are not addressing that. When we go to school in high school and we learn about history, we're studying ancient history. Ancient history is important too. But very few students actually get a class where we talk about the history of the last 150 years with a great deal of in-depth discussion about what that means in our culture. Very rarely do people get that in high school, and if they go to college, they might get it if they take it as an elective. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about our ancestry, our sacrifice. As a culture, as a modern Western, I guess they call us first world country, we have running water, we have flushing toilets, we can get in our car and we can go to our job. we're considered first world. I get that. But we have a lot of trauma in our past, and we have a lot of trauma that's happening right now across the world. We are embroiled in two very political, whether or not we've sent troops or not, doesn't matter. We've sent a lot of our taxpayer dollars across into countries that are committing genocide and that are being bullies on the block, okay? And for every bully, there's a victim. And in the United States, we are not exempt. You and me, as individuals, may or may not have dealt with our racial backgrounds. We may not have dealt with our biases. We may or may not have dealt with our ancestral traumas. But in reality, as a culture, we are not dealing with this very well. Not dealing with it very well at all. So we're continuing to perpetuate the cycle. The sacrifice card, the reason I bring that about is the sacrifice card is about sacrificing to bring a wholeness and a healing to all. And that is your microcosm, your community mesostructure, and the country, the culture of the country, the macro culture. Micro you, meso, outside of you, your city, your state, whatever. Preferably meso is like people you know that are in your outside world. Micro is like your family and the people you hang out with all the time. And macro is the bigger world. Like when you click on the news and you see trials, or you're looking at the weather in Argentina, if you did that. I might have done that. Learning about eagles in Alaska, or whatever it is you're looking at that's bigger, that's macro. So this card is the sacrifice is an offering of gratitude from the heart, a feast of love prepared by the Spirit. When you start really thinking about what sacrifice means, it's recognizing the gifts that you have and honoring those gifts with a thought mind, heart mind, emotion, body connection to what sacrifice means. And I'll relate to some of you who have a little bit of a Christian background. When you go to the Christian church, they do a communion, I think is most Christian churches still today, and they do a libation where they pour a little bit of the wine and a little bit of the bread and they give it up to God, and then they pass it around and you get a little piece of bread and a little bit of wine, turning wine into water, and bread is the body of God, basically. And that sacrifice is that libation. That sacrifice is that giving a little bit to the universe, to God itself. And the sacrifice piece you see everywhere in every culture by every indigenous community. Sacrifice is the thing that you treasure the most. You give back to honor the Great Spirit, the Great Mother, the connection that we have to each other. It's very interesting that manifests in our modern world as donations. It manifests as philanthropy. It manifests in this money thing. And there's always this thing, like I've been asked before, can you donate blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't have any money. I don't have anything extra. But what I can do is I can make a meal, right? I can make 3 times what I would normally make, and I can make somebody a meal. I am a crafty person. I can make them a bag. I can make them something that's made from my heart. That too is sacrifice. That is making something with the intention that no matter what comes out of it, you give it away. And it's a very interesting thing. I have noticed that there are things that I have made people, that I've made it so well, with so much love, so much positive gratitude, sacrificial energy, that I was like, oh, I did such a good job on that. I'm going to make one of those for me. And the one that I try to make for me never works. It's never as beautiful. It's never as good. And I think there's a reason for that, because when you're working from that purity, when you're working from that true sacrifice, you're working from that true place of love without any self-satisfied, toxic, internal jealousy, whatever it is, fear, shame, dread, disappointment, whatever that is, you create and you give from a true place of sacrifice and a true place of creation. Amun-Ra, creator, the symbol of skills, intellect, practical, the flourishing period, skills in public relation, ideas, intentions, making concrete. Sacrifice from a shamanistic healer perspective, because I do a lot of that. I've had one or two clients recently where I know financially that they are in a place where they can't get an extra session. So I have done what I always do. I listen to the true spirit, the true knowing, the true connection that I have with someone, and I sacrifice a little bit of extra of my time, a little extra of my energy, a little extra of my teaching, not because I think I'm going to get anything back. I do that to honor and know that every time I do that, some other client will give a big tip because they're in a place that they have more money, or somebody will refer someone who becomes a new client, who becomes maybe a long-term client. There's always a way the universe will balance the scales. Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon very much weighs the scales. And when you're truly participating in your path, and you're truly walking the walk, talking the talk, you sacrifice, and you sacrifice all the time. You sacrifice in little things that don't seem to matter, and you sacrifice in big things. A client time, that is a sacrifice, because no matter what I do, certain kinds of sessions are just really exhausting. Not because I'm doing anything wrong, not because I'm not eating or I'm not revitalizing, but there's a lot of energy that's exchanged in certain kinds of sessions. Other kinds of sessions, I could probably do them all day long and not be tired at all, because it's a different kind of session. And the horse energy is the powerful form of earth energy. Horse entities, that's a whole different conversation, I won't get into that, but horse entities, how they come into the form of horse, the entity that lives in the horse, they are very powerful. And they are very genuine. You're not gonna meet a horse that is a liar. They are sneaky and they're playful and they are very much very intelligent creatures. The more intelligent, the more playful they're gonna be. They all have personalities. I suspect natural numbers have something to do with that and how they manifest. But this is the thing. I'm gonna go back to ancestors. When you connect with your ancestors, you're connecting with all of the genetic traumas in your body. And you're also connecting with all the joy, all the love, all the amazing experiences they have that they have passed on to you in your cells. You, an entity, are living in that body. And maybe you, the entity, are from here, from Earth. Maybe you, the entity, is not from Earth. There's a lot of variation. But you have inherited these wonderful entities within that you need to learn to communicate with and honor. And you have a little bit of your ancestors in that you can connect with. And we have all sacrificed something. We've all sacrificed something of ourselves to be here, to learn, be in the world, connect with people, and do our work, whatever that work is. And many indigenous cultures talk about blood sacrifice, they talk about life sacrifice. Every indigenous culture around the world has them. I'm going to lump Christianity and Islam and Judaism, I'm going to lump all of them together because in some way they're indigenous in some way. They come from somewhere, right? But where you untangle the connections and these ancient rites that seem quite brutal is if you think about the world. We live in kind of a cushy life in our Western first world country. We get up, we have a nice bed, we have climate control, we can go turn on the water, we can go to the bathroom in a flushing toilet. We can go to the refrigerator and food is fresh and you can pull it out and you could have purchased it a week ago and it's still good. You know, like we have instant connection with each other via the internet. We have so many things that make our life easier. So if our life is easier, what are we being asked to sacrifice to create an obstacle? Where is the sacrifice? Where is the real thing that you're going to give up to make the world a better place for your brothers and sisters out in the world? I think there's a valid question in that. There are people that give up too much of themselves and lose themselves in the sacrifice. It's not what I'm asking you to do. There is a balance. There is a balance in what you give up to help someone else. Does that mean you might be called to, I don't know, do like the nuns do, right? Give up all of your worldly possessions and walk the earth and give to others? There are people who do that. They don't even do it in a religious context. They just choose to do that. That's valid. That's true sacrifice in their way. That doesn't mean your sacrifice by making extra meals for your friends isn't a sacrifice. Every sacrifice has meaning. The concept that you can just be positive all the time and never have to give something up of yourself and only get in return is not a balanced body, mind, spirit, emotion wheel concept. It's very toxic. It creates a lot of pressure. I work with people all the time that are like, well, I'm trying to be positive. Well, I'm trying to be positive. Well, I'm trying to be positive. You're going to have bad thoughts. You're going to have the sneaky little thoughts that creep in that go, I'm not good enough, or I'm ashamed, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, or whatever it is, right? You're going to have that. That's part of the human experience. What's toxic is when you're trying to be quote unquote positive all the time and you haven't found the balance of leaning into the, are you saying hello to people? Yes. Rub the phone and say hello. You're adorable. You know there's people on the other side of that. You're so cute. I always know that she can pick up on that there's somebody on the audience live or whatever because she'll rub the device, she'll rub the computer, she'll rub the phone. It's hilarious. She's just saying hi. So there's this quality in sacrifice that when you're having those negative thoughts, when you're having these, whatever it is that's happening, be real with it. What is the grace, the beauty, the wonderful thing in your life that you can turn back and say, I give this, if this is taken from me, it's okay. Because I know that there is always a sacrifice for anything that I choose to move forward with. Every relationship has a sacrifice that you make, but it doesn't mean you give up all of who you are in that relationship. There are things that we have to give up to sacrifice that mean something to us, the truly most important thing to us. I had to make a decision many years ago, and I won't tell you what that decision is, but it was a very big decision, and it was the biggest sacrifice to that date that I have ever made in my life. And the kicker is I knew that when I made that sacrifice, I would not be understood. I would be looked at as though I'm being selfish. I would be vilified for it. I would lose friendships over it. And I may or may not lose the relationship of the two most important people in my life at that time. Well, they're still two of the most important people in my life. But at that time, that sacrifice was for their benefit. And it was the hardest thing I could possibly have done. And I don't know very many people that could have done what I did. And all those things came true. I was vilified. I lost friendships. I was misunderstood for decades. I'm still paying the price decades later for people not understanding what that sacrifice was about. Because that sacrifice was not about me. It was about two of the most important people that I love in my life. And that sacrifice, I still pay for that sacrifice. And at the same time, I knew at that time, and I know now, that was the biggest sacrifice at that time I could have made, and it did good things. The cascade of that true sacrifice, that true selfless sacrifice, has paid dividends back in the universe to get me to the place where I can truly do my journey and my work. If I had not followed that, I do not know that I would have been able to get to a point where I am today, where I can do my real work. I don't know what would have happened. I don't know if my blueprint would have ended. I don't know if I would have taken an exit point. I have no idea. I can't know because I chose the sacrifice. And was it easy? Nope. Not only was it not easy, but it continues to be hard sometimes. I'm still paying that price. But the other thing is I know that the power of that sacrifice has brought some beautiful opportunities and people and community. And I have gained resilience and strength from that sacrifice. And I honored my ancestors by following my blueprint and following the messaging in my body and in my blueprint. When it's happening, when you're truly in a place of true sacrifice, it is a beautiful thing, even if the outside world doesn't always understand it. But it always pays dividends back over and over and over again. The universe will always bring you exactly what you need. I've been using this analogy recently because I think it's the best. If you like chocolate chip cookies and peanut butter cookies, and those are your favorite, it's kind of like your higher self knowing exactly what your higher self likes. But if you don't like Thin Mints, you're not going to go to the store and buy Thin Mints, right? You're not going to force yourself to stock Thin Mints in your pantry because you're not going to eat them, right? It's just like that in your blueprint. You're not going to put something in your blueprint that you and your higher self isn't going to like, understand, or be connected to in some way. It won't be part of the blueprint, part of the path. And so when I tell people, sacrifice is like you have a package of chocolate chip cookies and you've been waiting all day to have your one cookie at dinner, right? And you have a friend come over and your friend is really sad and they want to have a cup of tea with you and cry and get comfort from you. And you know that they like chocolate chip cookies. And you share your chocolate chip cookie. Now maybe you do a half a chocolate chip cookie. Go, I only have one chocolate chip cookie. I'll give you half. I know what I would do. My internal honesty meter would go, you have a whole package of chocolate chip cookies. It means you're not going to have some in a week, but give them 4 of them, and maybe you only have your one that you promised yourself, right? Because you're sharing of yourself. You're sharing of what you have, and I don't mean that as actual chocolate chip cookies. You're not sharing a thing. Sometimes you are, but you're sharing of yourself. And that's what our blueprint provides. Our blueprint always provides an abundance of something so that you have currency to barter, to share. What happens is when it becomes toxic is when you sacrifice yourself. You don't have any chocolate chip cookies in your pantry. You have none. And you're trying to make a batch of chocolate chip cookies while they're over drinking a cup of tea, and you're trying to make a batch of chocolate chip cookies with not enough ingredients, and they don't taste good, they don't have any sugar in them, they don't even have any chocolate chips in them, it might just be flour and cornstarch at that point. Like, you're trying to make something to gift when you have nothing. And you wonder why your friend has a sour taste in their mouth and they're like, never mind, I don't want your cookies, and they leave. It's the same thing when you are trying to pull from a dry well that has not been nourished. When you have nothing left, you have nothing left to give. You can't share abundance when you have nothing. But when you do have, you share and you sacrifice and you give. We give constantly to our brothers and sisters around us all the time, but we need to give from the abundance of the universe that has given to us. And when you have nothing, that's when the universe wants you to step back and nurture yourself. And it's amazing the wells of things that we have access to when we have had a great deal of abundance. We have a lot of capacity to have more abundance. And that requires sacrifice and leaning into your blueprint and leaning into the power of creation and leaning into the strength of your body and your ancestry, the strength and the resilience of your ancestry. But you can't lean into too much of that ancestry if you have not done the trauma work. If you haven't done the trauma work in your body, and I'm not even talking about genetic healing, I'm just talking about, say your great-grandmother had a terrible thing happen to her, or your great-great-grandfather was in World War II. You have to work on that trauma in your body way before you have the capacity to hold anything extra for someone else. So I hope this helps. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to be busy over the next couple days. I wish you a happy blessing, and Astra says hi too, and I will see you in prayer. Blessed be, my friends.